On my final day of horror, I decided to watch Alien, one of the greatest horror films ever made. It's funny, I actually first experienced this story as a Mad Magazine parody. I was too young to have seen the movie at the time, and so the only way I could safely consume this story was through silly character names and potty humor. But hey, it was still super compelling and I had to know more. Of course, I've seen Alien many times since then. This time around, I noticed how well sound is used in this movie. There are scenes with only one person, no dialogue, but just filled with sound, dripping water, the motion detectors, the self-destruct alarm at the end. Sound is used so well to bring the audience into this movie. Alien is not my favorite of these films, but of course it does get extra points for being the first. Alien broke new ground in a lot of different ways by pushing the horror genre in an exciting new direction with incredible special effects and a tight screenplay, very well written. Not a second of screen time is wasted in Alien, and that's thanks to its great writing. It's also got an incredible ensemble cast. Everyone here is amazing, but my favorite character has to be Harry Dean Stanton as Brett. He's one of the first victims of the film, but he's also the most authentic character here, I think. He embodies this film's central premise of truckers in space perfectly. I think I'm actually going to rewatch all of the Alien movies before I get around to Alien Romulus. That should be coming to streaming soon. Let me know which one is your favorite. I'll watch them all in the next week or so. See you at the movies.
Just tell me one thing, Burke. You're going out there to destroy them, right? Not to study, not to bring back, but to wipe them out.
That's the plan.
I noticed Alien Romulus is coming to Disney Plus this week, so I'm going to get through the rest of these before then. Aliens has always been my favorite of these films. It was the first one I ever saw on TV, by the way. It was an edited for television version. Doesn't matter. They still kept all of Hudson's best lines. He is one of the many reasons that this is my favorite. It's the best cast, the best script, the best premise for an Alien movie, other than the first one. You can imagine it was an easy sell. If it was that difficult to survive an encounter with one of these creatures, how could they possibly survive aliens? Plural. I feel this is better than the original just because it ups the stakes so well and adds all of these other awesome different elements, like a kid, wisecracking Marines, the wheezy corporate guy. It's a more well-rounded film, I think, with a more satisfying ending, even though it is virtually the same as the first movie. The alien queen gets sucked out of the airlock. Spoiler alert. Let me know your favorite Aliens line and or character. It's okay if they're not the same. See the movies.
Was there an alien on board?
Yes.
I watched Alien 3, or is it Alien Cubed? I was never quite sure about that one. And yeah, this is a bad one, possibly the worst of the series. And I don't blame fledgling director David Fincher for that one either. This movie is the result of a bad script and really bad special effects, but mostly a bad script. This movie immediately alienates the audience, see what I did there, by killing off the beloved survivors of the last film. Like, what was the point of Ripley going back and saving Newt just to kill her off in the opening credits of this one? Worse than that, they end up performing an autopsy on the little girl. It's very upsetting. Alien 3 is, in a word, boring. None of these characters are interesting. They all look the same because of the shaved heads, and they all sound the same because of the British accents. And it's a shame because there are some truly great actors in this film. You've got Charles Dance for part of the story, and hey, there's Pete Postlethwaite just tucked away in a corner there. It's awesome. I find the ending of Alien 3 completely ridiculous. I threw my hands up in frustration multiple times. No part of this plan to kill the alien makes any sense. I don't know why Ripley doesn't just kill herself as soon as she finds out she's impregnated. And the slow motion melodramatic fall into molten metal as the alien bursts out is just too much. Definitely a low point for the series, in my opinion. See the movies.
Want to tell us what this is?
It's a queen. She'll breed. You'll die.
I watched Alien Resurrection, which was actually a lot better than I remember it being. This is a solid horror movie. It's a natural continuation of story elements from Aliens, and I think it adds a lot to the Alien lore, as it were. Again, we've got a great ensemble cast. This franchise really does attract the best actors. Winona Ryder, Ron Perlman. It's even got Brad Dourif in a super creepy performance. This is probably the goriest of the Alien films. It gets real gross at the end, and that final alien-human hybrid creature is something else. Just fascinatingly grotesque. I couldn't look away if I tried. And this story is compelling. Like I said, this is what Burke had planned in Aliens, experiments in which they clone and breed more aliens. Why? Unclear. According to Brad Dourif, because it is a beautiful butterfly. But clone Ripley and her motley crew have to get off the lab ship or whatever it is and blow it up before it automatically returns home to Earth. Great emergency plan, by the way. I liked Alien Resurrection. It's probably my third favorite now after the first two films, but that's it for Sigourney's movies. Now it's time for the Prometheus trilogy. See you at the movies.
Big things have small beginnings.
I watched Prometheus, which I remember people being disappointed with when it first came out, but I've always liked this movie. I think it has to do with your expectations. If you go into this expecting it to be an alien movie, you're not going to like it, because Prometheus is not an alien movie. It's the only film in this series to not have alien in the title, and there's a reason for that. This is a prequel film that tries to tell the story of the derelict spaceship found in the first Alien movie, and I think a lot of people assumed that would mean more aliens, but this tries to do something different. It's not a horror movie, first of all. It's more of an intellectual sci-fi slow burn ensemble cast situation. Kind of reminds me of 2010 in that respect. Prometheus has an okay cast, I would say. Idris Elba's southern accent is fluid throughout this movie, and there aren't any standout performances in this. There's definitely no replacement for Ripley, though I think Dr. Shaw is meant to be that. My biggest problem with Prometheus is that I don't really know what's going on here. In all the other Alien movies, we can figure things out about the alien life cycle, and that it has acid for blood, stuff like that. In this movie, we have this mysterious black goo, and that it affects different people differently. It's kind of all over the place about how you can get infected by it, and the effects are very inconsistent. And we don't really get any answers about the engineers either, but I guess they were saving all that for the next film. Let me know if you like Prometheus or not. See you at the movies.
All of this is to start our new life.
I watched Alien Covenant, and again, this one was not as bad as I remember it being. That seems to be a running theme with these films. I used to not like them as much. With the exception of the weird opening scene with Guy Pearce, the first hour of this movie is solid. It opens much like any good Alien film, with a ship in deep space, crew and colonists in hypersleep, watched over by a lone android. Very cool sci-fi stuff. I like that it's a colony ship. That's an aspect of this universe we haven't seen before. And it's so much more terrifying in terms of aliens. They could impregnate the whole ship. Unfortunately, this movie goes off the rails when it tries to tie in the previous film. Very poorly, in my opinion. You think the killing off of Hicks and Newt in the opening credits was bad? This film goes places with the David character I never thought possible. Man, to be in the writer's room when they came up with this stuff. Covenant finally earns the alien part of its title by the end of the movie, but I don't like how this tries to tie everything together. It basically circles back to the original Alien after all these different versions, but this movie takes place on a different planet from the last one, so how do these OG aliens get back to LV-426? It's just so confusing, and it doesn't need to be. There is a good movie in here somewhere. It's still not the worst of the series. That is definitely Alien 3. Okay, just one more left. On to Romulus. See you at the movies.
Is this really where you want to spend the rest of your life?
You know I don't.
Then this is our only ticket out of here.
I watched Alien Romulus on Disney Plus with my 15-year-old, which is appropriate because this is kind of like Alien, the Next Generation. This takes place 20 years after the original film, so we're abandoning the Prometheus movies then? No, not really. That storyline is still a part of this, creating a ridiculous plot point at the end, but I can't do anything about it. Most people have described this one to me as a middling Alien movie, not as good as the first two films from the series, but much better than the last two, and I agree with that for the most part. Romulus does recreate the look and feel of the first Alien really well by setting the story in an abandoned ship being scavenged while in a decomposing orbit. It's a good place for an alien story, but I did not love Alien Romulus overall. It's got some blatantly obvious nods to the first two films. It suffers from exposition android, and the characters are not particularly strong or meaningful. This does kind of feel like the Hunger Games meets Alien to me. I do continue to love this world. I'm very interested in the status of human beings in Ridley Scott's future. There's a line in this movie about the Weyland-Yutani Corporation owning entire planetary systems, and that's a scary thought. I do want to see more stories told in this universe, and I think we're going to get them. Let me know what you thought of Alien Romulus. I'm curious to see if diehard fans are liking this one. See you at the movies.